The contemporary period, from 1939 to the present. Three main authors during this time period were Tim O'Brien, Alice Walker, and Ray Bradbury.
Tim O'Brien was born on October 1st, 1946. He is 70 years old. Tim O'Brien attended the University of Harvard. He first started writing in 1973. His first book he ever wrote was If I Die in a Combat Zone, Box Me Up and Ship Me Home. He's best known for writing about his experiences in the Vietnam War. Tim O'Brien is still alive to this day and continues to write.
Alice Walker was born on February 9, 1944, and is now 72. She started writing when she was 8 years old, and her first book was published in 1970. She writes books about African American literature and is most famous for her book, The Color Purple. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1983 and the National Book Award also in 1983. She still continues to write today.
Ray Bradbury was born August 22, 1920, and died on June 5, 2012, at the age of 91. He was an avid reader and writer at the age of 11. In his youth, he would always be in the library. At 12, he began writing traditional horror stories. He was also a cartoonist when he was young. As a teen in Beverly Hills, he visited his mentor and friend, sharing ideas. Ray used to sneak in a lot of preview theaters when he was young. He published his first story, Holler Boken D'Amelia, which appeared in January 1938. Then he wrote the Fahrenheit 41 and more.
Confessional School is a school of confessional poetry. It was associated with several poets who redefined American poetry in the 1950s and 1960s.
The Me generation was a generation when everything was about material enjoyment and individual success.
Postmodern, a development for a departure from 1890 to 1940.
Not fiction is not a literary form and not art.
Contemporary fiction is a blend of fiction and non-fiction in writing.
Gallows humor, iconic humor arisen from an acknowledgement of the absurd or grotesque, describes a writer who flourished after the World War II.
Three main literature events that happened during this time period were the publication of Native Son, the publication of To Kill a Mockingbird, and the publication of The Color Purple.
Native Son is a novel written by African-American Richard Wright. It is about a 20-year-old Vicar Thomas, an African-American youth living in utter poverty in a poor area in Chicago's South Side in the 1930s. The novel was first published in 1940.
To Kill a Mockingbird was written by Harper Lee and published on July 11, 1960. It is about racial inequality. When it was published, it was immediately successful, and as of 2016, 40 million copies have been sold. In 1962, the movie came out, and it was also a big hit. It was estimated that only 2,000 to 4,000 copies would be sold. However, the majority of people in the US have read the book today. Many copies of this book continue to be bought and read.
The Color Purple is a novel written by American author Alice Walker, made in 1982.
Three historical events that happened during this time period were World War II, which was between 1939 and 1945, 9/11, which was in 2001, and the bombs on Hiroshima, which happened on August 6th and 9th, 1945, and were during the final stages of World War II.
World War II started September 1st, 1939 and ended September 2nd, 1945. It was the most widespread war in history. It was the most deadliest war in history. It involved more than 30 countries and resulting in more than 50 million military and civilian deaths. It was sparked by Adolf Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939. The war would go on for 6 years until the defeat of Nazi Germany and Japan in 1945.
9/11, as many of us know, was the terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda in 2001. It was an awful event that killed over 3,000, including 343 police officers and firefighters. The first plane hit the North Tower at 8:45 a.m., and 18 minutes later, the second plane hit the South Tower. It was a terrible event that left the U.S. devastated.
The bombing of Hiroshima occurred during the final stages of World War II when the United States dropped an atomic bomb named the Little Boy on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945.